Hello there, YouTube. I'm gonna try and make a short video as to what turned me on to death metal music. I'm gonna go more into just as a kid and how I eventually got there. So I guess maybe being around 6, 7 years old. I remember being at my grandma's house a lot, and an uncle of mine. I won't dox my fam, but an uncle of mine, who I love very, very much, would always listen to bands like Guns N' Roses, Metallica, AC/DC, of course, and I would always bug him and annoy him and try to see what he was doing while he was locked in his room and shit like that. And he's always just cranking his jams and yelling, "Get the hell out of here! Get the fuck out of here!" Things of that nature, And I was just being annoying little cunts. But yeah, just something about distorted guitars and just the rocking and rolling that I've always been drawn to at a very young age. And I remember as a kid as well. I forgot how I got a hold of the Appetite for Destruction album by Guns N' Roses. But I used to jam that a lot in middle school. And even when I was young, back then, we had the cassette A, cassette B boombox, and you could record songs off the radio. And I remember I would fucking listen to November Rain over and over. I really loved the song November Rain by Guns N' Roses as a kid. And tons of other shit I can't really remember at the moment, but I remember November Rain was a song that I just really enjoyed a lot as a kid. And so yeah, that was that. And I was recording, listening to rock stations on the radio and recording them on cassette and having my own little mixtape of rock and roll songs back in the day. And then, a couple years went by, and I remember they had the whole 12 CDs for a penny thing. You would send them your address and some kind of, what the fuck's that shit called? Like a money order, some shit. I forgot the process of it, but I remember I did it and it actually worked. And I ended up getting 12 CDs for a penny. You just pay for shipping or whatever. And so yeah, I remember there was a couple of rock and roll CDs there. I think not too sure if it was probably some Guns N' Roses and AC/DC and a Manson album and some other stuff. But yeah, I remember then being a teenager. I remember I was started getting into Marilyn Manson. I remember seeing the video "Get Your Gun" on MTV and really kind of just stuck with me. And then a couple years later, The Dope Show came out. And I remember just being real intrigued by that, a pale white guy with red hair and a set of tits. And I just remember my family being real in awe of oh my god, look at that devil worshipping maniac and his crazy ass fucking satanic ass music. This Marilyn Manson, have you heard of him? He worships the devil and he removed one of his ribs to suck his own dick. And of course all that really did was just intrigue me even more into wanting to know more about the band, wanting to know more about Manson, wanting to know more about just the genre of rock and roll and metal in general. So Manson played a huge role as well. And then the internet era came along when Kazaa and Napster were barely born. Must have been in 8th grade or 9th grade. Probably already going into high school, or in 8th grade. More barely going into high school kind of shit. And I remember a friend of mine, one of my neighbors, had a computer and he had internet. I was too poor at the time. I didn't have a computer or internet, none of that shit. But I remember I'd go to his house and I think I would use Kazaa back in the day. And I remember just typing death metal in the search engine. And yeah, I remember just typing death metal in the Kazaa search engine, and there was one song. There was one song that it kind of just changed my life forever, and it was Grotesque Impalement by Dying Fetus. That was like my first like true taste of death metal music, a death metal band, and I remember just hearing like those distorted guitars for the first time, just those low growls, those low guttural vocals, and the insanity behind the drum kit. It would give me goosebumps every time I throw on that track, you know, by fucking Dying Fetus. And that song still holds up. That song's still fucking awesome. But Grotesque fucking Impalement by Dying Fetus was my first true taste of real fucking death metal. And I kind of never looked back since then. And I listened to all kinds of music aside from rock and roll and metal, and you know, if it's good music, it's good music. I listen to it all. I don't hate it. I'm not an elitist that if it's death metal or get the fuck out. None of that retarded shit. But once I was turned on to death metal, there was no turning back. Like, I was just full in, balls in. And I mean, that was it. That was fucking it. And also bands maybe that I got into it, you know, at that time, at that age, were bands like, you know, Mayhem, Satyricon, Burzum, the more modern era within like the death metal scene, like extreme metal and stuff like that, were the Black Dollar Murder. I remember seeing them when they were a bunch of cute little kids. They played here in McAllen, Texas. That was badass. That was really cool. King Diamond closed the show that night, but that was really badass. Also, another huge album that I can't not mention was also in high school, probably a senior at the time, or had just graduated, but I remember driving home, I remember picking up Butchered at Birth by Cannibal Corpse, and once I got to the track Living Dissection, which is track number 3, once that track was over and I was like following the lyric sheet while listening to it, I was just in awe that bands made music about that subject matter or about that kind of content. So I mean, that's another huge album that I cannot leave out. Fucking Butchered at Birth, Cannibal Corpse. The track Living Dissection really did a number on my brain. That's another one. Quintessence by Satyricon. That jam also kind of just... They're kind of a different genre, a different taste of metal, but Quintessence by Satyricon is such a fucking mesmerizing song as well. That shit still holds up. Throw it on today. Song's amazing. I mean, I know there's a fuck ton of little blots and pieces and chapters that I'm leaving out, but I'm trying to just remember like the meat and potatoes of my personal journey of how I got into what got me into death metal music. And yeah, it'd be, you know, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden, Metallica. Then shit within kind of my era, within the 90s, was stuff like, you know, Offspring, Marilyn Manson, trying to remember. I mean, there's so much, like I said, so many snippets and bits and pieces that I'm leaving out, of course, but yeah, after Marilyn Manson's Hollywood, kind of I was looking for something more. I needed something more, just more heavy, more aggressive, more nasty, and Yeah, finding Grotesque Impalement online what was the key, like, of between the beginning and towards the end of the whole journey within itself. The middle line, the ham to the sandwich was Grotesque Impalement by Dying Fetus. That's how I personally, that's how this whole journey started within just extreme metal in general, and I'll never look back. I mean, when I was in high school, like, would I be still listening to this in my 20s? When I was in my 20s, I'm like, am I still going to be listening to this in my 30s? I'm in my 30s and I love this music more than ever. And I just got my motherfucking ticket, Ticketmaster. I just got my ticket to go see Wolves in the Throne Room, At the Gates, and the motherfucking Behemoth in the next 2-3 weeks in San Antonio, Texas. And that is going to be motherfucking insanity. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.